guys, Melissa here. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? So a couple things here I want to talk about with the pro-life stuff. I'm around a lot of ladies in my life right now, and something that I want to share with a lot of ladies with the pro-life stuff is a lot of women have had abortions because they have been pressured in one way or another. They've been manipulated, they've been tricked, they've had something happen. I have a heart for not just Christian women, but post-abortive Christian women because they've had usually a life of. I just have a heart for all women, really. You know, whether Christian or not, I have a heart for others. But Christian women who are post-abortive, many times they've had to go through quite a bit to get to Christ. They've had to really get through this abortion to understand how much God loves them. A lot of women have been molested. Their grandfather, their father, whatever, molested them. This is common. They've had someone in the family who has molested them. And that trauma in of itself will put someone way out there, right? They're way out there because they're trying to deal with that trauma and it's coming out sideways. And what happens is when you have trauma, you're a people pleaser. So when that happens, when you're a people pleaser and you have the trauma, you have another trauma on you too with people pressuring you to have an abortion. So it can be trauma after trauma after trauma for women. And when I minister to women, and this is why I wanted to heal up, my channel is, I'm probably going to change the name again. It's going to be geared more toward, like I said, helping mothers homeschool their children, helping mothers with resources, helping mothers heal from abortion trauma, helping mothers with their finances. Honestly, I don't think anyone could have hit possibly rock bottom as much as I did when I came out here. I had no family. My husband left, totally abandoned us, and my son was going through a time of his wife left him. He was close to being homeless, but the point was I had nobody. And I think, other than staying here on in a business way with my son, I'm having a little bit of a hot flash here. I had a minor, right? And before when I was pregnant and, my parents decided abortion to save face. That's the only reason why there was an abortion. So nobody would know. So community wouldn't know. And my boyfriend, Randy Vian in Pittsfield, New Hampshire, his father, Randall Vian, was a fire chief in Pittsfield. He's dead now, but he was a fire chief, and they just didn't want anyone to know, right? Sex outside of wedlock was not really, it was frowned upon back in the day by some. A lot of people were living together. A lot of people, after the 70s revolution and everything, they didn't care. But it was kind of, go ahead and sleep together, but just don't get pregnant. That was the main thing. So, when I think about now, and I think about hitting rock bottom for women, I don't think there's a time that women hit rock bottom as much as when they go through divorce. I've heard of women being beaten. I've heard of women, having to run for their lives and they have kids with them. I honestly think that is probably harder for women than even, having a pregnancy. Time is always the essence when you have an unplanned pregnancy. So, I'm just saying, I think we need to understand that there are lots of times when women hit rock bottom in their lives, and an unplanned pregnancy doesn't have to be the worst time. It really doesn't. If you have family around you, you have friends. Usually girls have some kind of support around them when they're younger. They usually have family of some sort. I mean, I didn't have anybody really to really help me, just help me have an abortion. They have, they're young, they have their job, they have, some sort of support. And even if they're kicked out and they're homeless, there's so much support for women nowadays. Where, I don't know, I think when you go through a divorce, there's still not enough support for women. There's just, we've got the divorce support classes, which is great, but resource-wise, there's still not enough for women. There really isn't. Women in domestic abuse, you see shelters. Why should a woman have to go to a shelter because of something a man did to her, right? She should be able to have more resources. She should be able to not have to, go through stuff. Divorce doesn't mean that you have to go through a time of losing everything. You can definitely get on your feet. It can be a positive thing. For me, I'm on my way to another job interview, and I will still be working here. It's just I'm not getting enough hours. So I'll have another job interview, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. But I'm just saying there are a lot of circumstances for women where they find themselves in tough situations, and it shouldn't be this way. It really shouldn't. So back to when women have had abortions, I think we need to go back to helping a lot of women with the post-abortive care. Because a lot of women, they've got the false guilt, they cry, they're like, I'm so sorry, all this stuff. They've got other trauma that they're dealing with. A lot of times with our own kids, they had a brother or sister who they never got to meet. And, what does that say to sometimes to your kids? You can feel guilty like, I'm sorry I killed not me, but women can feel like, I'm sorry I killed your brother or sister or whatever. And most women are pressured. If they knew what they knew, they wouldn't have had an abortion. And yeah, there are some, I'm not going to lie, there are some out there who do fully know and they fully choose. But I think even then, most of them have regrets and they didn't completely understand what they were doing, right? Because if a woman knew, I don't think she would have really chosen something like this. I mean, if she knew what would have, the trauma after too, like she probably knew to a certain point. So I guess I have a heart really to bring a woman to Christ, to understand how much he loves you. There are people who are very judgmental and they are like, even with women who are divorced, like, oh, you must be a better person because you never had a divorce, or you've always been such a good wife, or whatever. Divorce is something that still is stigmatized, I think. It's an awful thing to go through, but it doesn't always mean that, someone's not a good wife or they didn't try. I did personally think at one point there was someone I met, and I'm thinking, you're Christians and you're divorced, what did this guy do wrong, right? I'm thinking, why could he have not kept his family together? Because he's a Christian. And, yeah, so it teaches you when you go through a divorce, it teaches you things too. It teaches you not to be so judgmental, because it takes two people, and in this case, this man's wife just got up and left. She just left. He tried everything, like I did, to work it out, and she wanted a divorce. So there are many situations where, it's just what it is. It is what it is, and that's the way it is. And I knew, because I know my husband so well, and I've known him since second grade, I knew the way he was, and he always thought the worst of me near the end there. I knew that would probably be the last time I would see him. When we said goodbye, we talked about a gas card. I had given it to him, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I need it. I'm traveling. And he's like, you Indian giver, and we laughed, and it was a short goodbye. I don't like long goodbyes, and it was, I already had a gut feeling he would go back to his family, and I knew that his family needs Christ. So, God has a purpose for this. His family does need to know Christ. We don't want to see anyone go to hell. So, God has it all planned. And his mother was like, oh, we got him at Christmas without her. Ha ha. There's nothing that they have that I didn't see coming. There's nothing that they have, they pulled the wool over my eyes or anything. I know my husband and his family very well. And Christ has a plan. So, and it looks like I got a text that my son got stuck in the snow. So we've got a storm over here. So I got to run. But you want Christ in your life, and he is the answer. And someone encouraged me recently that Christ is the truth, the way, and the life. And it's true. So when you go through this, keep your eyes on Christ. Follow him. He's the one we're following. I mean, my husband's been in my life pretty much all my life since I've been 7 or 8. I only had one other person I was close to at that time. That was my Uncle Bill, who was in my life for 46 years before he died. So, I had a couple other close people, but not as close as him and my husband. So, but you want to run to God, and God has removed my husband right now to allow me to go to him more. And that is what we're looking to do as Christian women. We want relationship with God above everything else. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys.